It's Daybreak. Thank you for joining us again, and it's time for the press review. A first look at what's on the front pages of the papers from around the world and an analysis of them. So let's see the front pages then, shall we? Beginning with this day reporting that APC governors are divided over national convention and choice of consensus. It also says the leader is now considering March. Mustafa says February 26 is sacrosanct. Well, in other headlines on the front page of this day, white paper on Ikoyi collapse building, Lagos to prosecute developer, 4 heights. A police report to Attorney General of the Federation says Kyari violated code of conduct for law enforcement officers. How he earned loyalty of the IRT operatives. Mawa, his arrest, a clear message of NDLA's commitment. You can find details of all of this in a copy of This Day This Month, but let's take the story above the headline. Again, above the masthead, beg your pardon. Again, NNPC apologizes to Nigerians, reveals 5 vessels of substandard fuel rejected, assures petrol supply will be restored next week.
Okay, quick look at the Punch newspaper. Stations run out of petrol. Scarcity paralyzes states. Queues persist in Lagos, Abuja. Others fares skyrocket. The federal government approves 1.17 trillion naira for railway maintenance. And bandits raid Kaduna community and abduct 22 residents. Kyari may spend more days in detention as the Drug Law Enforcement Agency approaches court. And the Academic Staff Union of Universities fumes as the federal government declares strike illegal.
And the Nation newspaper this morning, leading with the petrol crisis, it says 5 petrol-laden vessels from Belgium turned back. NNPC explains why they rejected the consignment as scarcity spreads to more states. Also, more headlines here. Collapsed 21-story Ikoyi building. Lagos to prosecute 4 homes as white paper okays trial of civil servants. Above the nameplate this morning, police NDLEA rift over Abakari deepens, and also ASU strike unnecessary, says the federal government.
Adulterated fuel. NNPC files claims for damages against suppliers. That's the headline for the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Its leading photograph is that of officers paying last respect for former governor of Oyo State in southwest Nigeria, Chief Adebayo Alawa Kala. Those are officers of the Nigeria Police at the House of Chiefs Secretariat Ibadan on Wednesday, and a lot of other stories are recurring on the front page of the Tribune.
We've got the international papers. The Independent, West renews pressure on Putin with more troops.
And the Daily Express, the Queen faces new anguish as Charles the Prince willing to speak to police over Saudi donor claims, and meanwhile calls grow for Duke of York to be stripped of his title.
The Financial Times reports that the French government is calling for an overhaul of the European Union security protocols in an attempt to better tackle the Ukrainian situation.
The Times now, cash for honors inquiry deepens, crisis for royals.
And for the press preview, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello, who joins us now in our offsite studio. Emmanuel, good morning, good to have you. And let's start with This Day newspaper. So many stories on the front page this morning, but one I wanted you to touch a little bit on is the news about Flutterwave, the payments company that was established in 2016, which is now the largest startup company in Africa. It's valued now at $3 billion, and this is happening with 3 young men who co-founded this company. That's so amazing, Emmanuel.
Yep. Certainly, and it's a good thing that we're celebrating it and drawing attention to that too. It shows that great things can still be done out here, despite all the horrible stories like you find in on the pages, the front pages this morning. But this is a good story and good news, jotting out of all that crisis around the economy. You see companies like this really making it, and with the enterprising skills of young people getting to put their energies in the right direction, as opposed to all the other things that we see in the youth sector. But this is good news, and it's a good thing that it's focused on, even as we grapple with all the other the crisis in the economy and the other things that we're dealing with. But this some kind of light, a beautiful thing out of the whole gloomy situation. So it's worth celebrating and it's worth reporting on.
Well, let's talk about the leading story for this morning. APC governors are divided over National Convention choice of consensus. Pardon my laugh there, because just trying to read the story, there are like 3 different groups of governors who are divided. There's the first-time governors, there are the second-time governors, and there are some other governors who say if Buni does not continue as the caretaker committee-led chairman of that committee, they would want the convention postponed. So it's a lot of chaos and confusion, isn't it, in Nigeria's ruling party at the moment?
Yes, and just to your point, that is why it's important. This is the ruling party, and the way it goes, so goes the nation. And I think that is why everybody is concerned. If the ruling party can get its act together, can get its game together in place, that leaves us with more chaos on our hands. And apart from those internal forces you were talking about, former governors, current governors, some other stakeholders within the APC, everybody seemed to be going with others even favoring that the date should be changed. Remember, this was we started this whole confusion when there was no, people were invited to this party and there was no venue. And even now, there's no talk about the venue, and then you have those crises about dates, the shifting. That goes to show you how disorganized the APC at this moment is, even with the crisis of what the consensus candidate, who are they going to zero on? In one other report, some of the contenders even pulling out already and saying that, well, it's like they're being foreclosed. But and at the heart of it is the leader of the party himself, the president, who, couldn't have those meetings with the governors to agree on anything, and jets out of the country, is in Brussels. So that leaves more confusion. But again, these are things I think they'll be able to sit, and then discuss, and then let's see. The country is waiting on the APC. We're watching. Everybody is watching, because that's the ruling party, and its woes, or its whatever it's going through, its travail is also to some extent a reflection of the travails that is going on in the country today. And I think that is why this is very, very profound, and that's why a story that we need to follow diligently.
You call them disorganized, Emmanuel, the political party APC, and they are at the top. Small wonder they couldn't handle the petrol situation. Still in this day, again, NNPC apologizes to the Nigerians, says it's rejected 5 vessels of substandard petrol. The Punch newspaper is also reporting stations run out of petrol, scarcity paralyzes states. When does it end?
Well, the NNPC is saying next week. It has a date to it. It's saying next week, this will end. But if you look at the situation on ground, you begin to wonder if this date is even realistic. But, at the heart of it all is the entire crisis itself. NNPC is apologizing. I don't know how much an apology we do right now, because the anger is growing. They just anguish of just sitting there in those those long queues, and for a very long time. In fairness to the APC government, you've not seen much of this. But when it showed up, when this crisis showed up, it beats probably every other thing we've seen in the past, rubbishing what looked like a good track record of providing fuel to Nigeria. But this is like way out of the court, especially with those adulterated fueling. So a strong word of apology from the NNPC boss, and strong words also from him that there's some of prosecution will happen. Nigerians want to see this, but above all, Nigerians want to see the end to those queues and the crisis of the black market and all of that. So those are the things that are paramount right now, that this government should be able to get its act together, deal with the crisis of fuel supply, and end this horror and this disgrace, this embarrassing situation that Nigerians found himself. Those sites are very ugly. You don't need them in our cities, but certainly you don't need them in the homes, and the anguish and the suffering that this has deepened across the country.
Well, the NNPC said this last week they said this week will be the end of fuel scarcity, and now they say next week. We hope it doesn't pass the month of February. Let's move on to the Nation's newspaper, and one of the headlines here says the white paper OK's trial of civil servants, the 4-score homes. The firm's developer of a 21-story building that collapsed in November, killing about 50 people, will now face criminal prosecution. Another recommendation from the white paper is also saying that government officials involved in granting permission for that building should also face disciplinary committees or disciplinary action. Now, it's good to see that this situation, this terrible tragedy, was not or has not been forgotten, this lack of due diligence. But this also comes as there's been other building collapses, not just in Lagos, but around the country, Emmanuel.
Yeah, well, you are right, Nkechi, and that's why we need to deal with the crisis, systemically. That is, you need to get to the bottom of it. You need to get to the DNA of the problem, the issues of regulations. Who is okaying what building? What are the officials doing? Where is leadership in all of this? Where is regulation? Where are the policy makers around these issues? So it's not just a one-off thing. That happened in that tragedy, as tragic as it is, and that some form of closure is coming to that with recommendations for those kind of penalties. Yes, that's good, but you have to also get to the heart of the problem of developers and those who are in charge of such things. Development, quality control. Those are the institutions that need to be strengthened, need to be looked into, and then so that we can get to the heart of it. The problem of substandard, building materials in the market. Those who are actually overseeing those things and okaying them, we need to have a systemic, what you call a holistic approach to the matter and deal with it from the inside, and not just a one-off thing and it's over. Or else we're just going to still report more of those collapses in Nkechi, like you noted. Maybe there's one already about to happen. So we need to start dealing with these things from the bottom up and go to the heart of the matter, and not just some reactive, white paper reports just to make some people look good. But that's good. The Lagos State government came in strong on the Ikoyi thing. But now it's time to start the serious work of dealing with regulations and the policies around those issues of buildings.
Well, Emmanuel Bello, it isn't Uhuru yet for the Prince, the British Royal Prince Andrews. Just as one case was ending, it seems another is starting. And all attempts by the monarchy to distance itself from any scandal seems to be failing.
Yes, and at the heart of it is the Queen herself, 95, and then she has to grapple with the crisis of her sons. Andrew probably just got around his, but he's not actually out of the woods yet. An apology and even those hush money he paid, to Virginia hasn't actually ended his own woes. Right now, people calling for the end of his dukedom. That he should take out his title. He has already lost a lot of privileges and unofficial titles, but now even his dukedom is being questioned, and then suddenly the king in waiting, Charles himself, this suddenly comes up immediately after that. There are cases of cash for honors that some Saudi princes and all that have come to look for their paid monies so that they'll be given honors and all of that. A new scandal altogether. Yes, you're right. It's not yet Uhuru for the Queen, and she celebrates her 70th glorious reign. She's forced to grapple with all of this, and then this is not actually a very good way to end a beautiful reign. But again, it's the royal family, it's royalty, and royals are sources for great stories, like we're having them in all the British newspaper this morning. But you're right, it's actually no one is out of the woods, and we just as we look at these stories, you can't help but look at the Queen herself, her story, her life and times, and then of course the crisis that she's faced with this very end, towards the end of her reign. It's quite extraordinary that these things are happening to the Queen. But again, she's there, glorious in her own way, going about her businesses and still being the queen that we've all admired over the decades.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello, for joining us on the press preview.